Hey there, friends. How's it going? David Potts with Song Notes here, and I want to answer a question that came in about a practice routine and developing a practice routine. What should be in your guitar practice routine? So, Rick, you wrote in asking about this. This is a question I get quite a bit, but Rick, you hit on 3 points I want to talk about here. One is you talk about you're learning the same 6 or so songs every time you practice, right? I want to talk about that because I've been in that spot. And you also mentioned never seeming to complete a song. So I'll have some helpful tips there as far as how you can set goals that'll be helpful for you. But I want to start with the last question you asked, which is actually, should you spend a certain amount of time on scales, quick chord changes, and then concentrate on the song? So you're kind of getting into the exercises and the mechanics and everything. And I want to help you out here, Rick. Anyone else looking for help on practice routine, this might be of service to you. Your mileage may vary. I know lots of teachers on YouTube give you the suggestion of the one exercise that will change everything. I don't have any silver bullet magic answers like that. But I think here, having taught myself guitar for 20, 25 years and having played 10 years of piano before that at weekly lessons, I have, I'd say, a lot of experience learning stuff both with someone sort of guiding me, a teacher, and also self-driven. And I can sort of give you some tips about how to make the most of that and some pitfalls to avoid, okay? So first up, the third question you asked, Rick, you talk about exercises. So for context here, this could be things like quick chord changes like you mentioned, other exercises that one might do, finger exercises like spider. You could do that up the fretboard in both directions, alternating strings. You could slice it in lots of ways. Strumming exercises, finger picking. I just wrote down a bunch here. Fretboard memorization, arpeggio scales, vocal exercises, ear training. There are so many of these things that you could practice, right? Now, here is what I'll say about this. Are these strictly necessary? And not in all cases. I mean, especially after you get past the beginning phase, if you know enough, you can be sort of sufficient to just go and just do your kind of standard strumming patterns that you have in your pocket, learn your 6 or 7 chords that get you most of the way there, and you could be a pretty happy guitarist, right? But you might kind of be in coast mode and you're not necessarily going to grow. So if you really want to sort of take it to a next level, some degree of using these exercises in some amount will be helpful. Now, here's what I'll say, Rick, also. You want to be mindful of the direction you want to go as a guitarist, right? And that's a really important thing because your goals are going to inform what you should practice here, right? Memorizing the fretboard, for example, if all you ever want to do is work on strumming your cowboy chords and simple stuff like that, I don't think you necessarily are going to get the most benefit from learning your different modes and your different arpeggio positions up the neck, for example, right? So you kind of want to be mindful. And specifically when you're learning a song, if there are things that are throwing you off, that are tripping you up, chord changes, say like changing to the B7 chord, for example, is giving you a hard time, that's something you want to be aware of and practice that. When I say practice it, I mean don't go over that one part of the song just over and over, beating your head into a wall. I mean putting in the time of going between, say, your E and your B7. Spend a minute, do the 1 minute chord challenge, for example, there, of going between E, making it a clean shape, transitioning to your B7, and keeping track of how many you can do in a minute, because this is the other thing I want to get to, is that consistency here is really key. No matter what you're practicing, if you can just do it, say even 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the start of each playing session, it's going to make a big difference. I know if you could spend 5 or 10 or 20 minutes, obviously you'd get more out of it. But even just a little bit is going to be a big sort of powerful needle mover here. Another thing I want to talk about is don't wait for inspiration or motivation to do these exercises. And if anything, pick up your guitar. Don't wait for motivation to do that. Just get it in your hands, right? Once it's in your hands, funny things start happening. You start noodling around, which is good. But if you're not feeling inspired, that's actually a great time to practice these things. Do some scales, do whatever it is. The chord changes you want to work on. If you want to get your pinky and your ring finger stronger, do some of those spider exercises. But spend a few minutes and do them with intention. Don't just say, I'm going to do some scales now. Wait, what is it? Okay, that's a scale. No, it's like learn the notes. I'm going to do, this position of this scale, 2 octaves, this tempo in the metronome. Go all the way to the top. Whatever your goal is, hit it, right? Don't flub around and practice without focus. So that's the other thing I want to say is, set your intention for your exercise. And go after it, even if it's just a few minutes. It will make a difference, okay? So if you have specific questions, Rick, let me know or post in the Song Notes community forum about things that are stumping you. You can get plenty of ideas for things to practice. The next question I want to answer here for you is, Rick, you asked about finishing a song, right? Specifically, I want to look at your exact wording here. Every time I practice, but I never seem to learn a complete song. And at the end of your email, you mentioned, should I be working on my exercises and then concentrate on one song? So really quick, on this topic of how to finish learning a song, first of all, I don't think you need to focus on just one song at a time, okay? The way I am is I usually have 2 or 3 things that are kind of on my plate at the same time. And usually I have something that I'm finishing up or I've learned, in the past week or 2 and I'm getting ready to record. I have a different sort of bit of concerns here than most folks because I'm recording lessons every week. But then I have songs that are kind of coming onto my radar. So I basically have stuff that I'm starting off with that I'm just getting going with. Maybe I'm testing it out. Do I want to even spend another practice session on this? Other times I have something that I'm a week or 2 into, and then other times I'm like finishing something up. And what's going to happen is the thing I finish up, it's going to go away and something else is going to come on my radar and the new things come along. So my point is, don't feel like you have to just focus on one thing at a time. In fact, I think having 2 or 3 things you're working on, song-wise or whatever, can just be a helpful way to make a practice session more interesting. If one thing kind of gets boring or stale or frustrating, go to the other thing, right? Again, set your goals and be consistent. Don't just be totally unattentive. But, having a bunch of things to work on can be a good thing. Now, here's an important thing about finishing songs. I think you really want to make sure you set realistic goals, okay? What I wrote down here is you don't have to learn the full song, right? Maybe you just want to learn the intro to Stairway to Heaven, or the intro to Amy by Pure Prairie League, or the Walk the Line acoustic instrumental part you don't want to sing. That's fine. Don't feel like you have to learn the full song in order to sort of make it a worthwhile pursuit. But I will say, be mindful and specific about what your goals and intentions are for learning something, right? Maybe it's, I want to play along with Pure Prairie League, Amy, just the strumming. I don't care about the intro lick. That's all I want. That's a great goal, right? Or maybe you want to learn the intro to Stairway to Heaven or Over the Hills and Far Away. Like, set up your goal and go after it. And here's the other thing I mentioned here is you want to set a realistic timeline. One practice session, one day, even 2 or 3 days is usually never enough to get a satisfying sense of completion with something. You're going to have to spend some time with it. But here's the catch. After a while, you're probably going to get burnt out on something or just lose the freshness, lose the joy. And at that point, it almost can seem like work to play something, right? So you want to kind of just be mindful that songs are going to come on your radar and then they're eventually going to go, right? And, there's bands I love that I was like obsessed with in high school that I don't listen to regularly anymore. I still love them in theory, but it's a different kind of, there's a bit of a distance to it, right? So you want to look for the stuff that is fresh, that really gives you life, especially. If there's a song you hear on the radio or, you're eating dinner outside at a restaurant and someone's playing a cover of a certain song, it's like, that's awesome. That can be a really powerful thing. So, set a timeline to get there. That's really the point I want to hit there too. I would say, a week or 2 or 3 is kind of my preferred sweet spot for a lot of things. Beyond that can be a lot, and any shorter might not be enough time, okay? And when you're done learning something, here's my third point, is I really recommend you record yourself. And you don't have to put it online, you don't have to share it. But I mean, it could be just audio on your phone. Get your phone, do the voice memo or whatever. If you have a webcam in your computer, even if it's just for you, having a recording of something can be just tremendously powerful. And I think audio works just fine. Because what's going to happen is, as you get going week after week, month after month, and you're learning new stuff, it's so helpful and satisfying to listen back to your old stuff and hear how far you've come. Because a lot of that progress can kind of seem invisible at the time and day to day. It just feels like you're stuck in the same spot. But when you work on something, right, and you listen back, it can be like, oh man, I can see how far I've gotten. And it gives you extra wind in your sails. So I'm a big fan of recording yourself. But yeah, set a goal. Don't worry about all 6 songs. Pick 1 or 2. And then determine which, do you want to play the full song? Do you want to sing it? Do you want to just do the intro? Do you want to just strum along? Set your goal and then go after it, right? And when you're done, if you can record yourself, I think that's a good one. I want to answer your other question here, Rick, about finding new songs too, because I think this is important, because I mentioned earlier how you want to look for music or songs in this case, or just, art in general, good art. It gives you life. Like I see a movie or watch a show or listen to something and I can't stop thinking about it. I can't wait to listen again. That's the kind of thing you want to listen out for and just be aware of, right? And you can't manufacture it. You can't plan it. Lots of times songs, I'll hear a song in a TV show or on the radio, and maybe it's a song I've heard many times, but for whatever reason, it hits me at a time where I'm just like, it's getting its hooks in me in a positive way. Okay, so just be open to that. some of my favorite things to do are just look around YouTube and look for covers, man. Like there's some really good examples of covers I found, and it might be for songs I've heard 1,000 times, and I might like the songs, but I never would think of them as guitar songs. But then I find a cover, I'm like, man, that is awesome. The example that comes to mind is Will You Love Me Tomorrow? I think Arcadian Walnut is her YouTube channel. Her cover of that song and all the other songs she's covered, I just love. It's like a real kind of like cool acoustic sound. The production has a real like intimate vibe. And it's what I love about the sound of the acoustic guitar. So it's been great watching her cover Space Oddity by David Bowie, for example, or this or that song. So look for covers. That's a great thing to get some ideas of your favorite songs. Obviously, your favorite YouTube teachers can be helpful. Look at the songs they've taught before. Just, listen to a little bit of them if you can. I mean, there's plenty of other teachers besides me, too. Other YouTubers, too, who don't necessarily do music lessons, I find a helpful point. So like Rick Beato, he'll do like what makes a song great, or he'll do lots of videos where he'll sort of talk about songs. I've learned a lot of music, from him. Grady Smith is another one. I'm kind of the new music that I am interested in. It's kind of like newer country stuff. I think it's an interesting space. Grady Smith has a great channel where I know he has a video coming out every couple days or a few times a week where he's going to turn me on to the best new stuff coming out. And that's like helpful because I can hear it, I can see it. Is this my vibe? And I think the last point I have here is don't be afraid of new music. I think as we get older, it gets harder to keep up with the new stuff. But there is good stuff out there that I've found in the past 5 or 10 years that like, a lot of times I never would have heard of this band if it wasn't for this one podcast or this one recommendation, but I heard of them and it sunk its teeth in and it got me. And now it's like, I love that music. So don't be afraid of checking out new stuff, even if it's you listen to one new thing a day, right? And I know it's hard, like music is so commoditized now with the radio and Spotify and YouTube. You have access to everything. It almost makes it all a little bit less special. What I like to do is find folks who are giving context around the song, and then I'll listen to it from the point of view that they're kind of giving, and that can be a helpful way to kind of be turned on to new stuff. So don't be afraid of new music is my overall point. So, okay, I got through everything. Hey, Rick, I hope this is helpful for you. If you have more specifics about the songs you're learning or the things that are giving you a hard time or any of those exercises I mentioned at the beginning, let me know. Anyone else as well, comment, give me an email, david@songnotes.net. I'm happy to hear what you all are interested in hearing me talk a little bit more about. And, I'd like to do more videos or some other content on like how to structure a practice routine or some example practice routines or some of these exercises I showed you, like how to do them with tabs and worksheets and everything. I'll get there, but I want to just get this one out quick and give you this answer, Rick. And anyone else looking for practice tips, I hope this was helpful for you. So if I missed anything, let me know. And otherwise, y'all, I'll see you in the next video. So until then, take care and bye-bye.